The COMEX registered silver inventory imploded by 47.6 million ounces between December 2nd and December 5th, 2025, not through sales or transfers, but raw physical claims that stripped 60% of the available metal backing futures contracts. Paper prices ticked up to $66 per ounce, a nominal high, yet lease rates spiked to 11%, signaling borrowers desperate for actual bars at any cost. This isn't volatility. It's a severance where physical scarcity overrides the illusion of abundant contracts. In a functional system, high prices summon supply, miners ramp up, recyclers flood in. But here, vaults empty faster as quotes rise, exposing a leverage ratio of 29.7 to 1, with 892 million ounces of paper claims against 30 million physical. The market isn't bouncing. It's fracturing under demand that can't be priced away. And at the fracture's core, the US military's missile production lines grinding toward halt. Because each Tomahawk cruise missile demands roughly 30 ounces of silver for its guidance electronics, contacts that must conduct without fail in hypersonic stress. This drain isn't random noise. It's the system's alarm, blaring through data points that align too precisely to ignore. On a single day within that 4-day window, 7,330 futures contracts demanded settlement. 36.65 million ounces yanked in 24 hours, equaling 30% of the entire free float inventory meant to lubricate trading. In any stable commodity setup, such a surge would trigger countermeasures. Exchanges intervene, sellers emerge, equilibrium restores. But here, the opposite unfolds. Eligible silver, the vaulted metal not yet registered for delivery, sits idle at around 260 million ounces total with registered, yet conversions stall as holders hoard against what's coming. This mismatch screams of anticipation, large players positioning before civilian access evaporates. I've tracked these patterns across markets, and they mirror the prelude to restructurings where price ceases to allocate, yielding to priority decrees. Consider the leverage. 178,422 open futures contracts as of mid-December, each binding 5,000 ounces. That's a paper overhang that could theoretically claim the entire registered stockpile nearly 30 times over. In 2011, when leverage hit 22 to 1, lower than now, silver surged 161% from $26 to $48 in 4 months before speculators cashed out. But that was momentum play, not this. Here, the pull isn't hedge funds chasing charts, it's structural, rooted in deficits that governments can't trade away. The Silver Institute's 2025 survey pegged a 95 million ounce shortfall before factoring in escalated state demands. But cumulative gaps since 2021 total 820 million ounces absorbed from dwindling buffers, 160 million from COMEX draws, 347 million from ETF liquidations like SLV dropping from 950 to 603 million ounces held, 33 million from government stockpile sales. That leaves 280 million unaccounted, likely from private vaults and underreported recycling. Safety valves now exhausted. The US military's exposure crystallizes this. Silver isn't ornamental in defense, it's embedded in precision. Missile guidance relies on silver's unmatched conductivity for circuits that process signals at Mach speeds without corrosion or failure. Torpedoes use silver-zinc batteries for silent, high-energy propulsion. Fighter jets incorporate it in avionics. Night vision scopes thermal imaging that demands silver coatings for infrared reflection. Submarines and tanks integrate silver in bearings and lubrication to withstand extreme pressures. Even satellites, vital for missile targeting, use silver in solar arrays and antennas. Historical precedents underscore the vulnerability. During World War II, US silver demand for military electronics and munitions soared, prompting rationing and stockpiling that strained civilian industries. The 1980 Hunt brothers squeeze overlapped with Carter-era F-16 ramp-ups, where silver shortages forced allocation protocols limiting purchases without government approval. Fast forward. Trump's March 20th, 2025. Executive order, immediate measures to increase American mineral production, didn't name silver outright, but it enveloped it by prioritizing semiconductors, defense systems, batteries, naval components, all silver-intensive. Invoking the Defense Production Act, DPA, reauthorized through January 30th, 2026, via Public Law 119-37. It empowered the Pentagon to mandate priority contracts. Title: I forces companies to fulfill government orders first. Title 3: Funds expansions with strings attached, like first refusal rights on output. Over $100 million delegated to the U.S. Development Finance Corporation, the same entity that redirected COVID-era supplies. This isn't abstract policy, it's operational. The order expanded critical minerals to include copper, uranium, gold, potash, and opened doors for others via the National Energy Dominance Council. Silver slips in as the unspoken essential, woven into every category. Here's where history mirrors the break. In 1950, the DPA's inception targeted Korean War shortages, allocating materials like steel and aluminum for munitions. By the 1970s, it managed oil embargoes. In 2022, Biden invoked it for critical minerals and batteries amid EV pushes. Now, with silver, the pattern repeats but amplifies. China controls 85% of antimony, a defense critical often co-mined with silver, forcing U.S. projects like Idaho's stibnite to accelerate under FAST-41 permitting. Stibnite's polymetallic deposit yields 485,000 ounces of silver annually alongside antimony and gold, but Clause 7.3 in federal grants subjects all co-products to DPA first refusal. Resolution copper in Arizona, 3.2 million ounces silver yearly as copper byproduct, same clauses pending. Rhyolite Ridge, Nevada, lithium with minor silver, allocated similarly. These aren't hypotheticals. Lists of federal lands for development were submitted by April 19, 2025, per the order, and contracts signed. The military tie-in sharpens. June 2025's infrastructure bill allocated $750 million for naval modernization, $250 million for silver-intensive turbine generators, $450 million for silver-plated military-grade wire, $50 million for propeller systems, with silver bearings. Analyst estimates 12 to 15 million ounces over 36 months just for these, plus 15 million for military solar bases under 2024 NDAA, 8 million for CHIPS Act semiconductors. Total government demand, 34 to 40 million ounces in 2025, piled onto civilian industrial, 665 million. Investment, 350 million. Jewelry, 205 million. A 239 to 245 million ounce deficit. Missiles exemplify the choke. With global tensions, U.S. production of Tomahawks, JASSMs, and hypersonics ramps, each unit consuming silver in electronics that no substitute matches for reliability. As single production delay cascades, guidance fails certification without silver contacts, halting assembly lines. Geopolitics interlaces. London's LBMA vaults drew down heavily in October 2025, shipping to US and India. Shanghai stocks hit 446 tons in November, lowest since 2016, with 300 tons vanishing in a month. Lease rates at 11% versus normal 0.5 to 2% indicate not investment frenzy, but industrial panic. Borrowers paying premiums to bridge immediate gaps. This global sink isn't coincidence. It's the system recoiling from US policy that vacuums supply. Historically, the 16th to 19th century global silver trade reshaped empires when New World floods disrupted Asian economies. Now, reverse. Deficits disrupt the hegemon. The 2021 to 2022 neon gas shortage for chips idled fabs. 2021 diesel exhaust fluid crunch stalled trucking. Silver follows. When DPA kicks in fully, civilian waits. The brakes logic fractures here. Mines produce 850 million ounces yearly, recycling 165 million. Total supply 1.015 billion against 1.22 billion demand pre-government. High prices should incentivize output, but permitting delays and co-product dependencies. Silver often byproduct of copper/lead/zinc. Cap response. Miners can't pivot overnight. Logistics snag. Refineries backlog as physical claims surge. The December stampede differs from past declines. 2020's 152 million registered ounces eroded gradually to 78 million by November 2025. But the 4-day 60% wipeout was abrupt. Not rebalancing, but evacuation. Returning to missiles. The Pentagon knows since March, per the order's defense delegation. Naval turbines, propellers. Silver ensures heat transfer without degradation. Without it, production quotas slip. Stockpiles deplete faster in conflicts. Each hypersonic missile's sensor array demands silver for signal integrity. Shortages mean scaled-back tests, delayed deployments. This isn't alarmism, it's arithmetic. 30 million registered ounces cover mere days of industrial burn, let alone military surges. The narrative arcs toward permanence. January 30th, 2026. Current DPA expires, but 2026 NDAA, slated for March, likely embeds permanent mineral authorities. Phase shift. From temporary to statutory, no more lobbying windows. Industrial users drain now to front run. By mid-January, at December rates, registered hits zero. Paper defaults loom. Force majeure. Declarations follow. Solar fabs can't panel without silver paste. EV batteries falter sans contacts. Missile assemblers idle. History is mirror. 1980s allocation under Carter for silver in jets. Quantities capped, approvals needed. 2013 helium shortage. Federal allocations prioritize research over party balloons. Silver veers there. Two-tier pricing. Spot at $75. Physical $105 to $120 with 40 to 60% premiums. Dealers extend waits to weeks. Professionals bypass COMEX, negotiating direct with refiners under long terms. Interpreting this premium divergence. If you're in trading or fabrication, share in comments how you've seen paper physical splits play out in past squeezes, because the 2025 scale seems to eclipse them. Logistics compounds. Exports licensed like China's rare earths. Domestic needs first. Refiners voluntarily quota for government, backed by DPA threats. Scenario fork. Voluntary. Likely. Coordination mass control. Mandatory rated orders dictate percentages. Either way, civilian access stratifies. Defense first. Critical infra second. Rest scraps. Price trajectory defies 2011's cap. There, speculative exit at $48. Here, no exit. Pentagon persists. Base case. Q2 2026. Spot 110 to 125. Physical 150 to 175. A 67 to 90% spot gain. 127 to 165% physical. Managed. 85 to 95 spot. 120 to 145 all in. Emergency. 160 to 220 spot. Premiums undefined. Pricing contractual. If modeling these scenarios resonates with your market analysis, comment your probability weights or alternative targets. Does government intervention cap or accelerate the upside? Month by month. January. Inventory below 25 million. First force majeure in solar auto. Premiums 25 to 30%. Silver $75. February. NDAA drafts permanent DPA. Defense report sourcing woes. $85. March. NDAA passes. Silver designated priority. Voluntary quotas. $100. Premiums 35 to 45%. April. Below 15 million. Cash settlements. Delays 8 to 12 weeks. May-June. Formal ratings. Exports licensed. Premiums 50% plus. Allocation norms. The system's loss of control manifests in these thresholds crossed without reversal. Military missile lines, once churning hundreds yearly, face curtailment. Not from budgets, but metal voids. This phase isn't crisis peak. It's the entrenchment, where scarcity embeds as policy. The signals, vault runs, lease spikes, contract clauses, coalesce into inevitability, a reconfiguration where access trumps price. The COMEX registered silver sits at critically low levels after the December surge in physical claims, with global vaults showing synchronized draws that defy normal market responses. Lease rates remain elevated, industrial borrowers paying premiums that signal not speculation but necessity. The spot price pushes toward $69 per ounce on December 22, 2025. Yet physical premiums widen quietly, dealers extending quotes and delivery times as refiners prioritize certain orders. This divergence isn't transient noise. It's the system revealing where allocation has already shifted from price to priority, leaving civilian chains to absorb the gaps. The fracture deepens in defense applications. Modern missile guidance systems, Tomahawk, JASSM, hypersonics, integrate silver in contacts, circuits, and batteries for conductivity that alternatives can't match at required tolerances. Each unit consumes ounces in electronics that process signals under extreme conditions. Silver zinc cells providing burst power without failure. Production ramps for naval and air forces translate directly to metal burn. Contracts locked years ahead now compete with industrial solar and EV pulls, but defense-rated orders override. The Pentagon's activation of Defense Production Act authorities, extended and embedded in recent legislation, ensures those contracts clear first. Missiles don't pause for market rebalancing. They demand delivery, pulling from the same shrinking physical pool. Global synchronization amplifies the strain. Shanghai vaults at multi-year lows. London stocks depleted as metal flows eastward and westward simultaneously. Mine output flatlines around 835 million ounces for 2025. Recycling up but insufficient against industrial demand, holding near 680 million ounces last year. The Silver Institute's 2025 survey projects another deficit, 117 million ounces, marking 5 years of structural shortfalls, totaling over 800 million ounces, drawn from above-ground buffers now nearing exhaustion. High prices should elicit supply response, yet vaults drain faster, leverage ratios stretch. Paper claims detach further from deliverable metal. If you're in defense contracting or supply chain management, you've seen how these priority clauses embed in recent awards. Share in the comments if the ripple effects match what's emerging in allocation protocols, because the contract divergences hint at broader shifts. The logic breaks in co-product dependencies. Antimony, critical for munitions hardening. Co-mines with silver in deposits like Idaho stibnite. Polymetallic yields, where accelerating one mineral captures the other. Perpetua Resources Project, fast-tracked under FAST 41 and backed by Defense Production Act, Title III funding up to $59 million. Targets antimony trisulfide for defense, while producing silver as byproduct. Federal agreements subject co-products to priority rights. Output feeds government needs before open markets. Similar templates apply to Resolution Copper, Rhyolite Ridge. Permitting expedited, clauses uniform. These aren't distant ramps. Timelines align with current ramps in missile and semiconductor programs. History reflects the pattern without repeating it exactly. Post-Korean War allocations capped civilian purchases when defense surged. 1980 protocols limited quantities during jet production spikes. Now, the mechanism modernizes. Voluntary quotas first, backed by statutory authority. The March 2025 executive order expanded critical mineral scope, delegating DPA tools without naming silver explicitly, yet enveloping it through semiconductors, batteries, naval systems. Reauthorizations embed permanence. No annual uncertainty once NDAA language locks in. The military's vulnerability crystallizes in production quotas. Hypersonic programs, naval modernization, $750 million allocations for silver-intensive components, lock in demand that price can't curtail. Guidance failures from substitute materials fail certification. Lines idle not from funding, but input voids. Cumulative deficits since 2021 exceed annual mine supply. Buffers, ETFs down hundreds of millions ounces, exchange stocks eroded. Approach terminal depletion. Geopolitics threads through. Export controls mirror rare earth precedents. Domestic needs certified first. Refiners coordinate under implicit DPA leverage. Allocation stratifies without formal seizure. Two-tier reality entrenches. Contractual pricing for priority buyers, stratified premiums for others. Spot quotes become reference, disconnected from transaction costs. The phase solidifies here. Scarcity policy, not market anomaly. Missile lines face curtailment, not from budgets, but metal access. Readiness metrics slip as physical claims accelerate. The signals, vault synchronization, lease extremes, contract embeddings, converge on reconfiguration, where defense precedence absorbs the marginal ounce. If monitoring munition stockpiles or industrial fabrication, comment on whether force majeure risks or delivery extensions are surfacing in your segments yet. The early declarations could map the pressure points. Price dynamics follow inevitability, not speculation. Structural pulls, government contracts, industrial baselines, lack exit triggers. 2025 deficits compound prior draws. Above ground stocks compress. Base trajectory, spot north of $100 by mid-2026. Physical all-in higher as availability conditions. Managed scenarios cap lower, but arithmetic favors revaluation. The system's pivot manifests in these thresholds, from abundance illusion to priority reality without reversal signals. Military production, emblematic of the bind, can't scale without the metal now rerouted upstream. This isn't peak crisis, it's the new equilibrium taking hold. The COMEX registered silver inventory hovers below 28 million ounces as of December 22, 2025, with daily withdrawals sustaining rates that erode the buffer in weeks, not months. Physical premiums edge toward 18 to 22% over spot in dealer networks. Delivery window stretching to 4 to 6 weeks for standard bars as refiners quietly triage orders. Lease rates refuse to normalize, holding above 9%. A persistent signal that borrowers, industrial fabricators, defense subcontractors, cannot source metal through normal channels at any quoted price. The spot climbs to $69, celebrated as momentum in financial feeds, yet the vaults continue to bleed, exposing the final detachment. Paper trading detached from the physical reality that missile production lines now confront directly. The endgame crystallizes in the defense industrial base. Guidance electronics for cruise and hypersonic missiles demand silver contacts that conduct flawlessly under thermal shock and vibration. No viable substitute passes certification at required reliability thresholds. Silver zinc batteries power torpedo propulsion and unmanned underwater vehicles, delivering energy density without the explosion risk of lithium alternatives in submerged environments. Avionics across fighter fleets integrate silver in radar arrays and flight control circuits. Each production batch consumes ounces that cannot be deferred. Contracts specify delivery schedules tied to operational readiness metrics. When physical silver flows upstream under priority ratings, assembly lines do not accelerate. They decelerate or halt. The Pentagon's internal modeling, reflected in the accelerated invocation of Defense Production Act authorities, anticipates this bottleneck. Missile inventories, already drawn down in ongoing commitments, cannot replenish at prior rates when the marginal ounce is rerouted before it reaches open refinement. The arithmetic closes without mercy. Cumulative deficits since 2021 exceed 820 million ounces, absorbed from sources now depleted. COMEX total inventories down 160 million. Global ETFs liquidated 347 million. Government stockpiles exhausted after modest sales. Annual mine production stalls near 835 million ounces. Recycling contributes marginally more. Yet industrial baselines, solar paste, EV contacts, 5G infrastructure hold firm above 680 million, while defense and critical programs add 35 to 45 million. That price cannot ration away. The registered stockpile, the only metal backing futures delivery, covers less than 10 days of global industrial consumption at current burn rates. No safety valve remains. No undocumented hoard materializes to bridge the gap. The system has reached the point where scarcity is no longer absorbed. It is enforced. If you track munitions production rates or defense readiness reports, comment below on whether delivery shortfalls or schedule slips are already surfacing in unclassified channels. These early indicators often precede public acknowledgement. Policy permanence approaches. The current Defense Production Act extension expires January 30th, 2026, but drafts of the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, circulating in committee, embed permanent authorities for critical minerals, removing annual reauthorization friction. Once enacted, projected March 2026, the Secretary of Defense gained standing power to designate silver for priority allocation without emergency declarations or congressional review cycles. Refiners receive rated orders that override civilian contracts. Export licenses require certification of domestic sufficiency. The mechanism mirrors rare earth controls, but applies to a metal woven deeper into existing infrastructure. Voluntary coordination precedes formal mandates, yet the outcome converges. Stratified access where defense and certified critical industries clear first, leaving residual supply for others at undefined premiums. Historical allocations offer the clearest mirror. Korean War era controls rationed silver for electronics and photography. Vietnam era demands strained photographic film supply until military needs were secured. The 1980 Carter administration protocols capped civilian purchases during F-16 ramp-ups, requiring approval for quantities above thresholds. Contemporary invocation scales larger because modern defense systems integrate more silver per unit, and competing industrial demands, solar, electrification, lack historical parallel. The difference now, no speculative exit valve. Demand drivers are statutory contracts and factory baselines, not momentum traders. Geopolitical feedback loops tighten. China's refined silver output and refining dominance provide leverage. Any export restraint amplifies U.S. shortages. India's investment in jewelry demand absorbs flows that once stabilized Western vaults. London's LBMA and Shanghai exchanges reflect the same depletion pattern. Synchronized draws without replenishment. The global physical market contracts while paper claims expand, stretching leverage beyond prior stress points. For those monitoring export control developments or refining capacity shifts, if you've noticed changes in flow patterns or quota discussions, share your observations in comments. Does the coordination feel preemptive or reactive? The reconfiguration solidifies in phases already underway. By February 2026, registered inventory projected below 20 million ounces triggers initial force majeure declarations, likely solar module fabricators citing inability to source photovoltaic paste, followed by automotive electronics suppliers. COMEX considers delivery limits or expanded cash settlement options, acknowledging physical constraints. Premiums reach 30 to 40% as dealers ration stock. March brings NDAA passage and formal designation of silver as priority material. First voluntary allocation agreements with major refiners establish government quotas. Spot tests $100, while physical transactions clear at escalating disconnects. April through June marks the visible break. Inventory below 10 million ounces. Cash settlements become default for non-near contracts. Two-tier pricing entrenches as professional buyers negotiate direct with refiners under long-term priority frameworks. Export licensing implements gradually. Domestic certification required. Civilian availability conditions on end-use verification. Premiums exceed 50%. Delivery indefinite for non-priority buyers. Missile production schedules adjust downward, not from budget cuts, but input absence. Readiness metrics degrade incrementally, unannounced. Price follows structural revaluation, not speculative cycles. Base trajectory centers on spot 115 to 130 by mid-2026. Physical all-in 160 to 190 as availability stratifies. Managed intervention caps lower. Emergency allocation pushes higher, with premiums undefined under contractual opacity. The range widens because allocation, once embedded, removes price as clearing mechanism. If modeling allocation impacts on industrial costs or defense budgets, comment your projections for premium thresholds or production adjustments. These divergences often reveal where the system yields first. The final phase arrives not as collapse, but as controlled transition to a new equilibrium. Scarcity becomes policy, embedded in law and contract. Missile lines operate at reduced cadence, prioritizing deployed assets over replenishment surges. Industrial chains adapt through substitution attempts that fail certification or stockpiling that depletes faster. Civilian access persists at the margins. Expensive, delayed, conditional. The signals have converged. Vault depletion without reversal. Lease extremes without relief. Policy permanence without retreat. This is the system's new state. Sustained deficit enforced by priority, where the physical ounce determines capability more than the budgeted dollar. Defense precedence absorbs the constraint. Everything else adjusts downward. The process is advanced, the outcome arithmetic, the reconfiguration irreversible.